Good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Clary, and I'm a librarian here at the Wichita Public Library, and I'm glad you all could join us today. Today's program is Essentials of the Business Plan. I will be sharing some of the library's small business resources with you later in the program. We'll go over a couple of housekeeping items before we begin. Please keep your microphones turned off during the program so we're able to hear our speaker. This program will be recorded, so if you do not wish to appear in the recording, please make sure your video is turned off. Next to the microphone icon, you will see a video camera that says Start Video. A red line to that icon means your video is turned off. If you have questions during today's program, please type your question using the chat feature, and we'll answer those questions as we go. And at the top of the screen, you can change your view so you can always see the speaker at all times. You click on Speaker View. And at the end of the program today, there's been a quick survey sent to you when you got your Zoom link. Please take a couple of minutes to fill that out. We'll be glad to use those to help us plan future programs for you. And today I'm happy to introduce Ron Lunsford with Wichita SCORE. Ron is a SCORE mentor, has decades of successful business experience, and we're lucky to have him do today's program. Ron will help you make less mistakes as you start and grow your business. So Ron and the other mentors are a wonderful partner to the Wichita Public Library, and we're glad to have them. So Ron, go ahead and take it away, and I'll get your PowerPoint set up.
Thank you very much, John. My name is Ron Lunsford. I've been a SCORE mentor since 2014 and workshop chair. I've mentored probably about 80 different clients, as well as participated in about 80 workshops. A little bit of background on SCORE. It is a national organization organized in 1964. Since that time, we've mentored or helped people start business 11 million times. Locally, we have the Wichita chapter with about 30 members. 15 of us actively talk to clients, helping them with their business plans. We have another chapter located in Topeka, and between us, we share the Kansas territory. Another strong contributor, Kansas City, Missouri, deals primarily with Missouri clients. If you're interested in becoming a mentee, we'll ask you to go to score.org, find mentor, enter your information, and in a couple of days, you will hear back from us and start the mentoring process. Locally, there's our telephone number and website. Next slide, please, John. Our objectives today include giving you an overview of the planning process, try to explain what it takes to be successful. We will talk about the one-page business plan. We'll also talk about the traditional or typical business plan. And most importantly, we'll try to give you a process that you can build your confidence and feel very comfortable presenting your business plan to others. Please note that SCORE is funded in part by the Small Business Administration. We are an SBA resource partner, and there are several here in town. Next. Why do I need a business plan? One, it becomes the foundation for planning as your business grows. If you do the business plan before you start, you can kind of set yourself a roadmap of how you're going to do the first 3 years and provide strong logic as to how you're going to get there. It does help you communicate your ideas for yourself and others. It may be involve getting partners behind you, getting the family to come along with you, perhaps bring on an investor or two, or even go to a lender. The business plan is intended to be an objective view of your business idea, and it enhances your strengths, and it may identify some weaknesses that you decide that you're going to do something about. Next. Is it important for planning? I'm going to read something here I like. A dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. A plan backed by action can make your dreams come true. I attribute that to a Greg Reed. He posted it out on social media some time ago. The importance of planning, it is a detailed roadmap to success. If you don't have a plan to get there, it's just a dream. Without formal planning, you're unable to communicate what your strategy, what your business approach, what your tactics might be to others, and most likely could lead to business failure. We've found that SBA has looked at history and found that those that do a business plan are five times more likely to be able to open their doors, and about 3 times more likely to stay in business. If you're unable to communicate strategy to others, how can you expect them to follow with you? Several of the failure rates mentioned there. If you're going into retail business, there's a 33% chance that you won't last over a year. Manufacturing and wholesale, 20%. So what business are you going to be in? This will help you decide, we hope, today. Next. Purpose of the planning. I liken this back to high school English, high school sophomore English. Who, what, when, where, and how are you going to get it done? The business plan gets you specific definitions for business goals. It allows you to specify what your strategies are going to be to achieve those goals. And it allows you to document and possibly present something to potential investors, lenders, or business associates. Next, please. We do encourage you to have a management team. These aren't people on the payroll. These are people that will have knowledge that can help you get your business moving along in particular areas. We encourage you to have a banker or a loan manager that you can talk to. And if you have financial questions, they're experts in that area and can help you. Similarly, accounting, an accountant or is CPA, at least to get started, and then you may consider a bookkeeper, but you need somebody to help keep track of, are you making money or not? And if you're not making money, what should you be doing in the finance area to try to make more money? An insurance agent or a broker can help you with your liability questions, can bring in an insurance agent and review your business with them. They can offer some suggestions that will prevent liability exposures or minimize those liability exposures. A lawyer, you don't necessarily need to have a lawyer on retainer, but you need somebody who you can go talk to. If you get a contract to lease a building, for example, they can review it and point out where the pitfalls are. If you're involved in purchase contracts, bids, things like that, a lawyer can also help you there. Score counselors are available nationwide. We have over 10,000. The last count we had about 13,650 of us and growing. We're available. We volunteer our time, and we're very happy to help any of you that's interested in starting a small business. You may need other training or support depending on what you're getting into. If you say you want to manage a restaurant, maybe you need a couple of years experience in restaurant management before you start your own. Or maybe you can bring that expertise on through staff, things like that. The footnote is Why is it important to seek out this professional assistance? Because these people know that potential problem areas and can help you avoid those pitfalls. Next, please. Before you start, do a personal audit. What do you bring to your business venture? How does your general work experience fit in? Do you have similar business experience? Had a young man walk in one day and said he's interested in starting his own restaurant. About the fourth question I asked was, what's your business experience? He says, oh, I've got 2 months front counter at McDonald's. I think that's enough. Well, there's a lot more to running a restaurant than that. And as we talked about it, he decided that yes, he did need to have more education. Formal education is also a big plus. If you've taken management classes, they can help you. If you've got management experience, that's even better. What kind of special skills and talents do you bring to the table? If you don't have those skills that are needed by the business, can you bring them on with a partner, or can you hire those skills? For example, if you don't want to do payroll, and I'm talking, if you're sitting there and you worked a 45-hour week, and then it's time to do payroll, your mind's not a whole lot on that idea, but you know it's got to be done. If you hire somebody else to do that, all you have to do is approve the time cards and let it rip. Any other personal audit items that you might make your business a success? Ask yourself that question. What have you got going for yourself? Next, please. Successful business owners. These are the entrepreneurial, the small business qualities and traits that have proven to be very, very helpful to successful businesses. Strong desire to be your own boss. Captain of your own financial destiny. Willingness to work long hours. I mentioned just a little bit ago. Small business people typically put in 60, 65 hours a week, holidays and everything. And you don't necessarily want to be a loner. You need to be able to interact well with people. An introvert is probably not the best combination to be a small business entrepreneur. You will be expected to read and understand the financial data. You don't necessarily have to be a bookkeeper, but you do need to know what the numbers are telling you. And here's the tough one. Mentally be prepared to face losses before you become successful, the ups and downs of changing conditions. And even if you have the best idea in the world, somebody else will come along and may have a better one. And absolutely be sure that you get your family to buy in on your small business before you start. When Johnny comes up and says, hey, Dad, what are we going to do for spring break? You're going to have to look at him and say, well, you remember we talked about I'm running a store. That store needs to stay open so we get a paycheck and we can afford the vacation. It means I've got to stay, but you guys can go enjoy yourself. It can lead to some very bitter exchanges if you don't get the buy-in early. Next. 10 tips. Learn from others in the market. The ones that are successful, copy their ideas. They're great. Those that aren't quite successful, maybe they're doing some things you don't want to do. Ask for help. SCORE services are free. We go along for talking to people about deciding on what kind of business they want to open, to all the way to established businesses having a little bit of struggle and want some help in a particular area. Do surround yourself with experts that can keep you on the straight and narrow. Understand how financing plays a big role in your business. We'll get more into that later. Do look at your organic search traffic. Be on the right team to support your weaknesses. Bring them on, help you. Reduce the uncertainty and increase the certainty. Especially your bankers going to want you to minimize the risk that's involved with starting a business. Don't be afraid to hire professionals if needed. And don't be too hesitant to get them on board early in the process. Know your customers, know your audience. Who are you appealing to? What kind of pains are you helping them avoid? And leverage your comparative advantage. You're good, you're better, you're the best in some items. And you want to be able to use those strengths to improve your business. Next, writing a one-page business plan. All of it, we're trying to keep it simple. It can be used in terms of a business, or you can use it on a product line if you've got several different product lines. Who are you? Who do you, why, what makes you better than anyone? What is your marketing strategy? Talk about 3-year target. What are your 1-year goals? What are your quarterly goals? What kind of issues do you have? And I'll be sending out some information after this, and would ask that you, I'll include this link, the step-by-step approach to writing one business plan. Next. Typically, this is the process to follow, and it's pretty straightforward and easy. Write down your goals and visions. If you don't have one, now's the time to be setting that down, because it then determines what will be your choice in the future. Write about your target audience. Who are your customers? How are you going to find them? How are you going to approach them? What are their values? Third, what is your unique selling proposition? Heard on a workshop a couple of days ago, 70% of the product in the market doesn't actually provide a need that the market's seeking. So be sure your product has a unique selling proposition. What makes it unique? What makes it better than other suppliers? For example, if you've got a product and you're selling it locally, and somebody comes in and he says, hey, I bought this same product online and I've got problems with it. That's when you have to decide, are you going to help them, or will you suggest that they next time they buy it from you? Write your product operational and management tasks down. Understand what you're going to be doing. Write your strengths. There's a business term called SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You can Google it. It's a very good analytic tool. Finally, write down your business objectives. How soon is it going to be before you reach the point where you're making money? Most businesses don't start out day one making money. It may take them 2 months, may take them 4. Depends. On one-page business plans, here's some links, and I will include those in my information. One-page business plans are usually best for small projects, maybe microloans. Microloans, anything up to $50,000. You still will probably need financials for most lenders. They want to know what the business looks like. And one-page business plan will not usually work for a major capital request, because there's so many other things that you need to address that aren't covered there. Next, please. Moving into the traditional business plan. This can be anywhere from 20 to 80 pages or more. If it's a major one and involving millions of dollars, it gets to be very hefty. If you've got more than about 10 pages, you're going to need a table of contents. An executive summary, company description, and what's your mission and values. What kind of products and services will we be offering? How's your marketing plan compared to getting those products and services out to your customers and producing a profit? What operational considerations do you have? Do you have management and organization skills that are part of that? Give a short paragraph on each key player, anybody that owns more than 20% interest in the business, and have a full resume in the back, in the appendix. Your personal financial statements are part of your business plan. Did you realize then you're going to be perhaps providing the last 3-year tax returns for each of your key players? The banker wants to know who he's dealing with. What have you got involved in startup expenses, and how are you going to capitalize it? Finally, there's a substantial requirement for a financial plan. The numbers in the last column are kind of like the table of contents, page numbers. They don't you don't necessarily have to follow this, but it's very helpful to make sure that you've covered all the key points. That small business startup and management guide, it's now 10 steps to small business startup, and it's located in sba.gov, also included in the information. Next. The executive summary. Make it brief. If you can do it in a half page, that's great. If anything that goes over 2 pages, a couple of my bankers friends say they will not even look at it if it goes over 2 pages, because it's not a summary. So you want to be sure that you get focused, and frequently we encourage people to write this last, because you're going to reference in that how much your loan you're applying for, how that loan's going to lead to profit and repayment of the loan. The business, it'll also talk about a business plan overview in terms of what niche market you might be appealing to, who are your customer base, and at least a short discussion on the project, the prospects for profit in both the business and the industry as a whole. Next. I should have mentioned, make it enthusiastic, concise, generate an optimism in terms of your lender, so that he or she can see that, one, you're excited about the project and they can get excited about it. Frequently, if you're talking to a loan officer, they're going to be taking your loan package to a committee, and they need to be able to represent you well. Company description and mission. What is the business? What will you do? Next. Mission statement, 30 words or less. Boy, you're going to have to get a sharp pencil then. Business philosophy. How will you conduct business? And the customers. Who's going to be buying your product or service? You may have to actually create an avatar to say, this is my typical customer. If you're serving different markets, you may find out that you've got several different customer groups that you need to recognize. Industry overview. Is it growth industry? Forecast the future. Next. Your strengths, your core competencies. What are you really good at? How can you make your business a success? What are the critical factors? On your goals and objectives, what will happen and when? Be specific. You need to include how that's going to be measured, and also when it's going to happen. And in your legal structure, SCORE would be glad to sit down and advise you in terms of what's available. In Kansas, we have a very nice Kansas small business portal, ksbiz.kansas.gov. Other states, I recommend that you check with your Secretary of State to see what structures are allowed there. Also your insurance, and even talking with an accountant, a business CPA, they can give you some ideas as far as tax considerations. What kind of goals and strategies? Are they measurable? Are they quantitative? Are they obtainable? Doesn't, you know, when a guy walks in and says, I'd like to borrow $1 million and I'll pay you back in 1 year, he has a pretty strong business or just wants to use your money. More than 4 goals, not more than 4 goals, preferably 3 major goals. Examples are there. Strategies and how to achieve your goals. For example, adding more help the next year. And 2, the following: increase your sales by 20%. These are all things that can be measured, and see if you're on a plan for it. Actions required that meet those goals need to be in the business plan. Let's go. Action planning. How will this strategy be accomplished? Who's responsible? How would you measure it, and how are you going to make it happen? What results can be expected? When the banker says, will I get my money back? Next. Products and services. You begin to see now that we're talking about an awful lot of information, and you get to pull it all together in terms of a business plan. What are the unique items are you selling? Describe your products and or services. Focus on the benefits rather than the features. It's not necessarily a washer and dryer for $500. It is the deluxe model, and it has these features in terms of better energy efficiencies. What benefits come with the product? Because if you start just talking price, it soon the conversation soon drops to, well, I can get a washer for $100 someplace else. What are your pricing strategies? What kind of fees will you be charging? Are you going to offer leasing plans? Why will customers buy from you? Need to be able to answer that question. You need to be able to remind the customer as they're talking those benefits that they're getting. Things that do have some value in the market nowadays: brand names, trademarks, proprietary features. We can offer you some guidance there. And there's also some professionals that at low cost can help you establish those. The detail cluttering, such as drawings, photos, brochures, long resumes, tax returns, things like that, all go into the appendix. Next. Marketing plan. Base it on solid research, not fuzzy ideas. I had a couple of clients several years ago interested in starting a specialty restaurant, hamburger with family idea, that would family fun time. They located a place, they went out and they watched what they thought were 3 of their competitors as to how many customers were they getting an hour, what was it typically amount spent, and also some idea as to how fast customers were moving through. They came back and they were struggling a little bit, and after that they decided, well, maybe they weren't quite ready. Do your own primary research if you can. Secondary research, John and I will talk about that in a little bit, but libraries are a wonderful, excellent source of information. Your chambers of commerce. If you're in a particular trade, the trade journals, or even the associations. And government agencies, etc., can be very helpful in providing information, publishing it for it. Census just finished their 2020, and some of that research is becoming available. Apply that research to your plan. How does it fit? Does the growth percentage look good? What kind of basic market strategy are you using to beat the competition? And how will your products or services be offered to the customer? Again, why would customers purchase your offering rather than going to a competitor? Next. I threw this slide in. A couple of those items aren't of much interest. I will point out direct mail is still an alternative if you're small enough, or well, actually large ones too. If you look at the mailbox, you can see who's using direct mail. One point would be, if you're in a small area, the post office will not only go down to the zip code of a particular area, they'll go down to the carrier route for you. Just work with them. Email, social media can be difficult. There's an awful lot of noise out there. Ads in newspapers. If you're trying to cater to a small group, such as homeowners, you might consider contacting the homeowners associations and see if they would help you with letting you put in a business card side ad in their local newspaper. Comes out, most of them send out something quarterly. What kind of handout, brochures, business cards are you going to have? What's your internet website? We've had a couple of clients come in and say they didn't want a website. And after doing their research, they came back and they said, all the people that we're considering competing against have websites. We're going to have at least that much. What kind of handbills, flyers do you need to hand out? Next. Pricing products. Pricing is not a science, it's kind of an art. And you need to determine what your rationale for pricing is. If it's the market price, then is it the online price, or is it other competitors in the general area, storefronts? Or are you going to be able to price based on cost plus whatever expenses you want to associate with that sale and your expected profit margin? If you're providing services, you might want hourly rate, you might want to work on a day rate. If you've got things that you have to deliver, what kind of charges would you have? What kind of channels of distribution will be using? Will you use wholesalers, retailers? Will you do mail order? And your sales force, will you have your own salespeople? It can turn out to be very expensive. Or independent reps, likewise. You decide what you want in terms of your managed operation crew. What kind of after-sales service plan will you have? If somebody has a complaint after a day, do you take it back and exchange it for a working model? Or are you offering 30 days or a 90-day guarantee? Whatever you're going to do. If a customer comes in and says, I bought this last year and I really like the features on the new model, what kind of trade-in can I get on it? It's another after the sale service. Operation plan. Lots and lots of different things to think about. If you're a storefront that has inventory, how are you going to control that inventory? How are you going to make sure that it turns over on a regular basis? New quilt shop operator. She'd bring in brand new fabric, and for the first 30 days, it would be offered at introductory price. Very expensive. And then I drop it down to the regular store margin. At the end of 60 days, she's already starting to take some markups off of it. At the end of 90, it went on the clearance table. She turned her inventory on a regular basis. If you've got inventory, you want to give some consideration to how do you move it. Also, if you're thinking about buying a business and the inventory of that business comes with it, get somebody to evaluate it. One client of mine had a situation buying into an HVAC business, and there was $400,000 worth of inventory. About $60,000 had not moved in 4 years. And she negotiated with the buyer saying, that's your problem, or excuse me, negotiated with the seller saying, that product is yours and stays yours. I'm not buying it. You have 30, 60 days to get it out of here. What kind of production technology, if you're in production, what kind of transportation and delivery are you using? Where's your quality control? Customer service. Are there handling variations in demand? What do you do if one customer says, I'll take 100 of them, and the next one wants 3, but they want the same level of service? Well, can you do some adjustments? Do you do anything in product research and development? Also, how much time are you allowing for employee training before you open the doors? If somebody is hired on, says that they know what they know all about that business, that's great. But more than times than not, you will need to train them in what your business is and how to handle it. Next. More inventory considerations. You need to manage the inventory on hand. Keep your costs down, but avoid outages. Right now, we're going through a session where a lot of things are increasing in price due to inflation. People unable to get replacements, so they're charging extra for what they've got to sell. When you're looking at inventory, what are your lead times? How far ahead do you have to place the reorder if your stock starts to move? Some businesses like the 2-bin approach. They take 50% of their product and put it out in front, and they put the other 50%, if 50% is what you want to use, back in the back. When you sell the first quantity and open up the bag for the second one, that's your reorder point. Simple, easy, and not likely to be forgotten unless somebody goofs. What kind of value on the inventory are you going to have? I mentioned pricing with the quilt shop example. What is that value of that inventory? How do you keep it fresh? Also, a lot of our industries are seasonal, and you may have to build up your inventory in preparation for the season. And then when, as soon as I'll take automobiles, for example. Right now, the dealers are placing orders for next year's model and trying to determine how much they're going to have on hand, and also trying to get an indication of how much discount they can offer on the old models going out. Next. When you've got suppliers, keep a database of the suppliers, their names, their addresses, and phone numbers. A prime example is if we have a tornado come through and you can't get into your office, and your office equipment is damaged, how do you notify your suppliers? One, you're not open for business, so please reroute any inbound shipments. But number two, give them an indication that, hey, it's probably going to be 3 months, 4 months before we can get back in business. If you can't stop shipments coming in, that means you're responsible for buying them. And then how are you going to sell them? You should also use your previous supplier experiences. When do they deliver? Are they good about doing it on time? What kind of credit and delivery policies do they have? And can you expect them to repeat on a regular basis? You need projections of your supply costs to keep track of your expenses. And as I mentioned, we're seeing a lot of change in terms of prices, costs due to inflation. Next. Other operational, didn't we have enough already? Look at this, credit policies and terms. Will you be offering discounts? One customer comes in, buys 3, pays regular. One customer comes in, says, I want to buy 15. Can I get a discount? You need to be prepared to say what you can do for them. How about your employees? Will they be full-time? In other words, 40 or 40 plus hours per week. Will they be part-time? And in some places they call that 32 hours a week. Will they be contractors or self-employed subcontractors? How can you staff your business the most economical way? Also, if you're going to have a storefront, how much, what location are you going to need? How much are you going to need? Square footage, storage, parking, signage, the list goes on. You need to be very detailed in terms of working on this. If you're working with a score mentor, they're likely to ask you questions like that, not because they know from experience that it's likely the case, but that did you actually address that? Think about it. If you did, great. Sometimes some decisions need to be looked at a second time. Management and organization. If you're not going to be the day-to-day manager, then who is? And is he or she qualified to not only represent you and your business, but to take care of training people, things like that? Need brief resumes of the key management people in the business plan. As it says, full resumes go to the appendix. Professional advisors should be identified. Back to the bail. You're looking at the banker, you're looking at the insurance, you're looking at the accountant, you're looking at the lawyer or attorney. Identify those people so that the person that's looking at your business plan can have a little more warmer fuzzy about this person knows what they're getting into. If you need support, identify that, and by expertise, experience, so on down the line. And organizational charts are great in terms of showing relationships, showing responsibilities. Your own management qualifications could be very highly valued by the lender. So don't forget to list those two. Next. I think we're beginning to get the feeling that this business plan is a lot of work, and it is. And we'll help you with it. But they're your numbers, it's your plan, and in the end, you're the one who's going to have to deliver on it. So we will help you. Give SCORE a call. Personal finance statement. List your personal finance, independent of the business. One of the best things that you can do is go through and review what are you spending money on your household, your family, and what things can be cut back, or if you've got credit cards, can they be paid off within a reasonable time? What are your personal assets and liabilities? What collateral can you pledge to the loan? Lenders typically will look for 20% skin in the game. In other words, you're going to invest 20% of your own money to launch the business, and the lender will come up with 80% or something in that range. There are some lenders that say 10%. It depends on the industry and also how good the credit worthiness is. What personal assets are required to finance the portion of the business startup and continuation? And as it says, you may be required to use personal assets as collateral. Next. Startup and expenses. That's a beautiful storefront when you drive by it, but when you get ready to say, okay, what does it take to open the doors? Am I going to need furniture and fixtures? Am I going to need a sign? Am I going to need a point of sale software and equipment? Do I need a little area in the back of the store to receive shipments so I can get them out of the boxes and get them ready for display? Itemize all of those expenses that you anticipate before you can open the doors. And that list should be fairly accurate because you can identify what's available in terms of the market. You don't want the banker saying, don't you need something like this? Another item to think about, of course, is parking. If you can't get enough customers in the door, it's going to be a constraint. You can add contingency for each expense item, or you can separate it as an item and just call it contingency. Typically, we recommend 20%. So that when you get ready to look at your startup expenses, there's sometimes some surprises. Oh, yes, I need that heavy piece of equipment, but I forgot to estimate the freight getting it here. Identify each capital item to be purchased, and again, cost plus some contingency. John? Financial plan. If you can't do best guess, worst case, do the best guess. Lenders are used to expecting that you're going to be a little optimistic. Try to make it realistic. Accounting method used, cash is pretty common with all entrepreneurs, sole proprietors, things like that. If you've got inventory where the inventory could be carried over from one year to the next, and it affects your sales and gross margin, then you'd use the accrual. A CPA or a good accountant can help you with this decision. Project your sales, expenses, and capital needs. We recommend month by month for the first 12 months, quarter by quarter the second year, and a third year in total. I like the little statement down below. Number one reason why small businesses fail is not that you're not passionate. It's because you don't understand your numbers. You don't understand what they're telling you. Have a good accountant, bookkeeper who can tell you, can explain the numbers to you, and answer questions about, what if I raise prices 5%, or can I raise prices 30% on these items type deal. Next. What's included in the financial projections? Startup expenses, sales forecasts, on down the line. Lots and lots of numbers. An accountant can help you put those together. Next. This is a good depiction of cash flow. When you first start out, you have your initial investment. And as you sell your inventory, you get sales income. So you're adding water to the top of the bucket. And depending on where the spigot is set going out, you'll pay out some up for startup expenses. You'll pay out some to replenish inventory. You'll use money to pay operating expenses. And if you're taking an owner's draw, you may be using it for personal living. There's nothing tougher than, as you run out of cash, to suddenly say, hey, I can't draw a paycheck. So, next. In this one, I know the numbers are small. Point out a couple, three. Cash on hand up in the upper corner, starting out the beginning of the month, you put in $10,000. You borrowed money to the amount of $40,000. So you got a total of $50,000 that's available. Then you look at your prepaid expenses. It talks about advertising, it talks about rent, utilities. And when you get done, your cash positions are at the end of the, when you're ready to open the door, cash has already gone down to $41,000. The $41,000 that's at the bottom there becomes the starting number of the next month. It's kind of like your checkbook. And well, we're going to sell some product. We're going to have some expenses. And at the end of the first month, we're at just almost 36,000. Wow, going down in a hurry. You go on across and you can see the cash position is decreasing. At the end of the 12th month, we've got $2,800. But if you look up there as in terms of expenses, we're eating it up a lot faster than we're earning it. So with this scenario, would your decision be go or no go? One possibility is sit down with a SCORE mentor and say, what can I do to improve this situation? One possibility might be to, if you'll notice down there under the subtotal of expenses, loan principal payment was deferred for 3 months. Can you get that moved out a couple more months? It's a possibility. There's also that big question mark, owner's withdrawal. And it's just question marks. It hasn't, they didn't take anything out of it. But if the owner has to withdraw for living expenses, this is a definite no-go. Next. In the appendix, you provide supporting information, detail that supports whatever you've stated in your business plan, but in essence, it's not there to sway the decision other than to simply say you have more detail if they want it. Next. Small business resources. Do your own market research and competitive analysis. It's great, you got an idea, now find out if it's feasible. We highly recommend the Wichita Library and its research and small business resources. Correction on this last bullet point, the next library presentation is March 26th, and it will be on business planning for nonprofits. Nonprofits have a business plan, but they also have a lot of other things that they have to work with. So if you're interested in nonprofits, I'd highly recommend it. Next, John. One of the library resources is the Business Plans Handbook. This happens to be volume 27, as you can see. They're up to, I think, volume 53 or maybe 54. So they come out on a quarterly basis. And John will talk a little bit more about it, but this particular one's probably about 10 years old. Next, talk about a particular business plan. The Business Plan Handbook has 8 to 10 sample business plans in each volume. This particular one's on senior relocation services, a very timely situation if you were interested in doing that business. The executive summary you can see is like a half a page. Next, market analysis, about a half a page. They devote a very short paragraph to competition, industry analysis. Then next is personnel. Gentleman who's going to be president is a real estate expert. His wife is a social worker type that can help with problems with family relocating, and then a support staff, and they're going to hire a manager to work the cruise. Growth and strategy. Next. Services, marketing and sales, and then operations, financial analysis, and finally we get next, we get a very brief financial. The first year, they're anticipating almost 160,000 in sales. Their expenses are going to be more than that, so they're going to lose some money. But that's not, for the year, that may not be too bad. The second year, sales almost doubled. Sales did double, and total expenses are coming up, but they're making a profit. Great. And in the third year, it's looking very, very positive. Now you can see why this particular business would have qualified for a loan, because all of the Business Plan Handbook samples are vetted plans. Important factors when you're getting ready to talk to your lender. Keep your presentation clear, organized. Be prepared to support your business plan numbers, especially the one is, I need to borrow such and such. I can pay it back by such and such. Those are the ones that, that the lender really looks at the hardest. Make loan approval as easy as possible for the loan committee, the bank, the lender. Anticipate questions. Be prepared. Be confident that you've researched this and you're good. You're real solid on your numbers. If you have questions, then you can work out an understanding. Remember, most loan terms and conditions are negotiable. Not everybody has the same credit rating. If you walk in and you talk to a banker and he says, my going rate is, well, you might be able to sit down and say, hey, my FICO score is 775. Much better than probably you see in terms of average loan applicants. And I'm very good about paying my bills. Might get yourself, if not a better rate, a better arrangement as far as payback. Be prompt for your appointment. In fact, be 10 minutes early and dress appropriately. Obviously, if you're a construction worker, you may come in a little rough, but most people will understand business casual and dress accordingly. My review, and I've been at this a little too long, John, but I provided an overview of the planning process. We talked about the one-page business plan. We've talked and discussed a little bit about the traditional business plan. And the big point was, when you get done, you'll be much more confident about being able to talk to a lender, talk to your friends, talk to your family, get people behind you to support you with your business idea. Last slide, please. And I think we're ready for questions, if anybody has any. John, that's all I've got. Thank you very much. Look forward to receiving the, have a question, can I make the slides available? Since this is being recorded, the recording has all the slides on it. I will try to make sure that you get the links that we talked about, okay?
All right, thank you, Ron, very much. Yeah, just a couple of questions in chat was making the slides available, and then thanking you for your time and expertise. We certainly thank you for all of your knowledge you shared with us today. Okay, we're going to spend the remaining of our program going over library small business resources. The Wichita Public Library has digital resources and print resources for everything from starting a business, business plans, marketing, accounting, management, all business topics. Ron mentioned the business plan handbooks, an excellent source. We have, as he mentioned, over 50 volumes of these successfully funded business plans. So if you're not sure what one looks like, you're certainly welcome to come to the library, check out the different business plans that are in here. You can make photocopies, you can take cell phone pictures, just get a good idea of what a good business plan looks like. So that's one of our print resources. We also have databases, which I'll share with you today. And these databases are free with a library card. So one thing I would really encourage you to do, if you do not have a library card, stop by a library branch and ask for a free library card. It takes about 5 minutes to get one. Just bring something that has your current address on it, like a driver's license or piece of mail, and we'll hook you up with a free library card. Then you have 24-hour access to our databases. You can do your small business research. A lot of things Ron talked about, your market research, your competitive analysis, All of that is very important, and your library can help you get that information to flesh out your business plan, explore ideas, learn more about your products and services that you're thinking about selling to your target audience. Library staff can also help you do the market research, find lists of competitors, find lists of potential customers and sales leads, offer sample business plans and templates. We have a host of business directories, detailed business profiles, as well as trade journals, business magazines. We also have a nice collection of nonprofit information, both in print and electronic. So if you're thinking about starting a nonprofit, we have books that check out that talk about starting and operating a nonprofit. And we also have some electronic resources that go into the funding side of it. So if you're looking for grants for your foundation, we have the foundation directory, which will cover over 100,000 foundations that offer money to nonprofits. So if that's what you're interested in, we can help you with that. Just a few other things. We have free collaboration rooms at our advanced learning library. These are small rooms that hold about 6 people, but you can use them to do business meetings, conduct Zoom interviews. They're free to use 2 hours a day, a week in advance. So if you're coming down to the library and want a quiet place to study or do a business meeting, think about those collab rooms. We also have Cox Gigablast Wi-Fi, so really fast Wi-Fi here at the library. About 45 computers with Microsoft Office suite, so Word, Access, and PowerPoint. We also have Chromebooks. Not only do we check them out here in the library, we have a vending machine that checks out Chromebooks for 3 hours for your visit that you can use here and then turn back in. But recently we've started a Chromebook and hotspot checkout package where you can borrow one for 30 days. So you can borrow a laptop Chromebook, hotspot, take it home for 30 days and bring it back. So we're really excited about that service. We also have an AV studio, audio visual studio with a lot of high-end professional equipment. You can use that to work on your promotional materials for your businesses. And we also offer copy, fax, and printing services. So we have a whole host of things you probably don't think about being at your library. You think about checking out movies and books, and certainly we do all that. But we have a lot of good resources for small business folks as well. Whether you're just starting out with an idea or whether you have a business and want to expand it and look for more potential customers. So in our remaining time, I'm going to share with you some of our electronic resources that we use the most often. They're located on our library webpage, which is wichitalibrary.org. And you'll want to go under the Research and Learn section. This takes you to lists of a lot of our databases. And just scroll down to the Start a Business section. We've created a nice website that has all of the links in one spot. These are going to be your resources for small business development. So here you'll find tools to allow you to envision, create, and operate your small business. We have subject-related books and magazines. I mentioned the remote access to several of the business databases, the free collab rooms. Currently, due to COVID, we don't have our larger meeting spaces available for rent. We will down the road. Those are larger spaces, 50 to up to 300 people that we rent by the hour. Hoping to roll those out soon as our COVID numbers go in the right direction. We also have technology training. So if you want to learn more about Google for Business or other aspects of how to use a tablet, smartphone, we have tech trainers that will sit with you one-on-one for an hour and go over whatever your technology training needs are. And of course, we have the general computer access and the Chromebooks that I mentioned. Ron mentioned our next upcoming program offered with SCORE is March 26th, Business Planning for Nonprofits. And we're also going to be doing in April a social media marketing course. So we're proud to be partners with SCORE, and they offer their expertise on these topics, and we get to share our small business resources at the same time. So let's take a look at our databases and what kind of information you can expect to find. Start out here with the A to Z database. This is a tool you can find sales leads, business information, business profiles. This company is based out of Omaha, Nebraska, and they provide not only libraries all over the country with detailed business information, but they're a for-profit business, and they generate sales leads and can create custom lists as well. One of the values of having your library card is you have free access to this. For example, if you wanted 100 sales leads, you can expect to pay about $1 a lead. But with your library card, you can go in and create your own customized lists and get your own sales leads at no charge to you. So the BIS A to Z database, we'll take a look at how they find their data. Like I said, they have over 30 million business profiles and executive profiles to do your business research. They get a lot of their public information from annual reports. The Security and Exchange Commission puts out quarterly filings through the EDGAR database is the name of that public database. They also use corporate registers, public registers, things like Register of Deeds, county courthouse records, National Directory Assistance data, thousands of yellow and white page directories, and of course, regular business directories. They also do a lot of telephone verification. So they will call and verify over 80% of all their business listings to make sure they're accurate or as accurate as possible and update them whenever possible. We frequently find some errors in them and in the profile, so we will contact them and suggest that they need to update the information. Usually that's if a business has moved, different addresses, that sort of thing. Also, they are hooked up with the Post Office National Change of Address System, so they'll keep tabs on records of that when places change locations. They also do deep web mining, so they'll do website searching and get information that way for businesses. Also, there's a residential side of the database. It covers over 240 million residential listings. Of course, that's going to be people that have landlines and have their phone numbers listed and their addresses, but it also includes people that have cell phones. They don't include the cell phone listings because those are not available as public consumption information, but they will have the name and address of those folks. They get that from National Directory Assistance data, from real estate deed and tax information data, that's courthouse information, voter registration information, mail order data. Whenever you fill out a warranty card, either online or in paper, that gets put into these kinds of databases. Thousands of white pages and many other sources. One of your homework projects after you get done with this program is to go into the A to Z database, see what it has to say about you. I think you might be surprised. I'll try to do a sample search and show you what kind of information is out there on people. Also, they have job listings. So if you're in the market to learn new skills or want to see what the job market is like here locally for full-time, part-time, contract jobs, they contract with Indeed.com and update their listings with that #1 job database. They also have listings of new businesses. So they're hooked up with the Kansas Secretary of State's office. Whenever new businesses register up in Topeka, they'll get put into these types of databases. So if you have a product or service that targets new businesses, this would be a wonderful database to use. It also has new movers and new homeowners that are added weekly. All the time, people are moving into apartments. People are buying homes. When they do that, Register of Deed information is public information, so that gets put into these databases as well. So if you have a product or service that you're selling that targets new movers or new homeowners, this would be a great database to use. And you can narrow it down too. You can narrow it down to the city. You can narrow it down to the zip code area. There's a lot of ways you can manipulate the data to really target your sales leads and your information. And finally, there is a healthcare side of the database that has over 12 million healthcare professionals. This is going to be things like chiropractors, doctors, surgeons, nurse practitioners, physical therapists. If you have any kind of a product or service from your business that targets healthcare industry. This is a wonderful tool to use. They gather that information from state license filings, the US DEA information, and the National Provider Directory files. So that in a nutshell is how they find their information. Let's go take a look at some of the profiles and see how you'll do your searches. Basically here, they'll start out with finding a business. Our library staff uses this a lot when we get calls from library customers and they want to know where a local business is. We can put in the name, it'll come up right with the address and phone number and who the owner is. So that's useful. Next is the find a job and career resources. This is where you can search by title or keywords for jobs. You can narrow it down to city, state, or zip code. And again, you can search for full-time, part-time, contract, internship, or temporary positions. And that's through Indeed.com. The quick find a person or search by phone is the residential section. So we get lots of calls for library staff on individuals here locally as well as all over the country. So if you're doing a reunion and you need addresses in Illinois or Washington State or California, this is our go-to database to do that. It will have names, addresses, telephone numbers if they're listed, as well as some census information, which I'll show you here in a little bit. Down here is kind of the meat and the potatoes of the database, and what I like to use the most when people come in and they ask for competitive analysis and ask to do market research. This is generally the section that I will steer them to. This is where you can get mailing lists, sales leads, and find out detailed business profiles. So here under 30 million businesses, I'm going to go ahead and click Get Started, and I've got a couple of examples I'd like to show you. Over here on the left side is where you can use your parameters. So the first section here is geography, and I'll put in city and state here. I'm going to use Wichita, Kansas as our example for today. Once you have the city, you'll put it over here into your selected city, and that locks that in place. And also you have a keyword or business type. I'm going to use a keyword and put in plumbing. And you'll see it brings up a list of suggested headings: plumbing contractors, plumbing and heating stores, plumbing engineers, plumbing fixtures, so lots of different areas. I'm going to select plumbing contractors to begin with. And once I have some criteria in there, I'll come over here to update the count, and it'll search the database. It finds initially 77 listings, and when you hit search, it brings those results right up for you. And it's going to bring them up based on their sales revenue, so largest to smallest, but you can also invert the field and do the smallest to largest if that's what you'd like. Over here on the left side is the name of the business, the contact person, usually the owner or the manager's name here, their address, their telephone, and what their sales revenue was last year. What I like to do is I'll go in to a detailed profile by clicking on the business name. And here you're going to get things like Google Maps and directions, so you can see what their business looks like. I've had some customers come in and have window cleaning businesses, and they want to see how many windows are on a building or if they're dirty and need cleaned. You can also get the owner's name here and sometimes find additional personnel. Has their main line of business and usually a website link here as well. Ron or the SCORE mentors may send you to me to find out what the SIC codes are for your product or service or business. Here you're going to see SIC codes. This stands for Standard Industrial Classification Codes. What these are is usually 4 or 6-digit codes for specific businesses and industry. So in this case, 1711 is the SIC code for plumbing and heating and air contractors. But you'll see some other codes in here as well. 1761 for roofing. 1761 is roofing contractor. Down below, you'll see NAICS codes. That stands for North American Industry Classification System. This is another industry code method. Includes a lot of your newer industries, and by newer, I mean in the last 20 years or so. So things like your internet companies, your Facebooks, your Googles, your social media marketing companies. they're going to have the 6-digit codes, and those are called the NAICS codes, but they'll also represent a specific industry or type of business. I use this a lot to find competitors. So if you come to me and tell me you're in plumbing, I'm going to say, well, let's find your SIC code. It'll generally be 1711. We can bring up all of the plumbers with that SIC code in Wichita, in the county, in the state, nationwide. So it's a really good way to start to do your market research and find out your competitive analysis. There is a small demographic profile listed here, so it tells you how many employees they have, whether it's at this location or if they're a public corporation, corporate-wide. It also gives sales revenue for last year. So this number will tell you what their annual sales were. It's going to be more of an estimate for private businesses, because private businesses are not required to give their sales to anyone other than the IRS when they do pay their taxes on it. But public corporations, of course, have to file SEC quarterly and annual reports. Those numbers are going to be more specific on revenues for public corporations. So this company, Cruise Corporation, has been in business since 2001. So it'll tell you how long they've been in business, whether it's a public or private corporation. This is sometimes useful if you're working with other businesses, if you're selling products or services to other businesses. Come in and research your customers and make sure they have a good business credit rating. This tells you whether they pay their bills on time or not. Cruise Corporation has an excellent 100% credit rating, so they pay their bills. There is a QR code in each business profile that you'll find here on A to Z database, so you can do a quickly add to your contacts to your smartphone or your tablet. And here is a section for the top 10 area competitors. So you'll find other plumbers or other people in heating and air conditioning that are competitors of Cruise Corporation. Again, you can go into each one of these profiles and get the detailed business analysis on each one of those. Below that is nearby businesses. Ron mentioned mailing or inserts, flyers for local areas. If you want to either partner with a nearby business, you can check and see who the nearby businesses are to you, how to contact them, who the contact person is, whether the owner or manager will be in each profile. Or you may want to partner and say, hey, if you sell plumbing services to this company, we'll give them a free plant. So this is useful for nearby business information. Over here is some 4 to 5 years of sales revenue trends. So you can find out whether this business is a fairly stable business, whether it's declining business industry, or whether it's a growth industry. So it'll have their sales growth percentages. This tends to be a pretty stable business, it looks like to me. And also their employees. Are they maintaining a current number of employees? Are they adding employees? Are they laying off people? So this is useful when you're doing your competitive analysis to see, am I getting into an industry or business that is growing, or that's stable and mature, or that's declining? So this can help you make those no and go and no-go determinations while you're doing your market research before you spend a lot of money, your own personal money. Also, here is a executive directory of key personnel. So you have names, you have email addresses of a lot of the key personnel for these different businesses, what their title is, what department they run, how to contact them via email, sometimes useful. And then finally, the estimated annual expenditures, how much they spend in some of those business areas that Ron talked about that are very important: accounting, advertising, business insurance, your lawyer or legal fees, office equipment, rent, your technology, your computers, your telecom, and your utilities. So these will give you rough ideas. This is usually really useful to small business owners, mom and pop businesses, 1 or 2 employees. If they have a particular part of the city, we can go in and find out what the annual expenditures are for businesses in that part of Wichita where they're thinking about opening a storefront. But it also allows you to put those numbers into your business plan as well when you're doing your market research for your business planning. So that in a nutshell is what business profile would look like. You can go back to your results. One thing I want to point out is sometimes you don't capture all of the businesses that you're looking for in this method. I'm going to revise this search and show you how we can bump up this number 77 to even more. If we go into the SIC code number rather than just the keyword, we'll select SIC codes and put in 1711, which was that SIC code for plumbing contractors. And I hit update count. That bumps it all the way up to 220. So you may wonder why it's only came up with 77 contractors, but it's bumped up to 220. The reason is in the SIC codes, if they have more than one line of business, for example, mechanical contractors, heating, air conditioning, and plumbing, some of them are roofers. They may have more than one line of business they do. So plumbing may just be one small aspect of their business. But you want to play around with it or ask for suggestions from me or our library staff on how you can find the complete parameter of what your market looks like and how big the market actually is. So this, this came up with 220 additional ones when we bumped into the SIC code for plumbing and contractors. So we'll take another quick look at one of the profiles of another one, just to show you what it looks like. Let's go with Brand Plumbing Company. Here's their profile. They're at 2418 South Hoover. Again, map and Google directions will take you to their map and directions to get there and what their location looks like. You also have their owner's name, Mr. Mark Brand, their main line of business, plumbing, heating, and air contractors, links to their website. They have 34 employees here and nearly 3 million in sales revenue last year. They're an established business. They've been in business since 1984, and they are a private company. Business credit rating 95, so pretty good. They pay their bills on time. Here's all of their SIC codes and NAICS codes, their QR code, some of their competitors. And for whatever reason, they show some decline in their sales revenue over the last 4 to 5 years. So for whatever reason, sales have tended downward for them. Also, it looks like they've laid off a few employees over that time period as well. So it could be due to a wide variety of factors. That's why you're going to do your market research and learn all you can about your competition as well as your industry. Here are some of the annual expenditures for those key business areas and a list of their executive directory. Also, and I did mention this earlier, some of these new profiles are showing an internet presence. So as companies get Facebook sites, websites, Twitter accounts, they'll be listed in this internet presence. So that's typically what your profiles are going to look like. See a couple of questions here. Let's see what we have. Will we get access to spreadsheet templates for financials? Yes. Ron can send the template, and score.org has a financial template gallery, and just use the search. Okay. So that is A to Z database and how you'll search it. You can narrow it down by number of employees. You can also narrow it down by amount of sales. So there's a lot of different ways you can target your audience, target your sales leads, and do your own market research. At any time, you can save this to a flash drive, save it to Google Drive, save your results, email them to yourself. So there's a variety of ways to compile your research as you're putting together your business plan and doing your planning. And just remember, there's also the new businesses database, the residential database, the new movers and homeowners database, and the healthcare database. I do want to show you a quick example of what the residential looks like.
John,
Again, we'll pick.
This is Ron. A to Z database is also helpful in terms of suppliers and vendors. You can see who's in who's offering what types of products. Thank you, John.
Sure. So here you see the residential side of the database. I picked Wichita. I picked gender, so females, and age range. Let's say my market is 26 to 49. I can update my count and come up with 45,000 females that are between 26 and 49. I hit search and it brings up that actual listing that meets that demographic criteria. Let's just take a quick look at the first one to show you what kind of information you may find if you do a search on your particular name when we're all done today. But it gives the name of the person, it gives their address, and again, that Google link is there so people can see where you live, see if your grass is cut or not, see what your house looks like. This can be kind of creepy for a lot of people, but it is public information and it is out there, whether you're using something like a Zillow database, doing your house searching, or just Google Maps searching in general. But databases like these make access to this information as well. It also has gender, has length of residency, so it tells you approximately how long they've lived here, and also gives you their age information. It'll also tell you who your neighbors are. So if you've moved into a new place or you've been there 5 or 10 years, you don't know who your neighbors are. If you put your name in here, it'll tell you who your neighbors are right here in your neighbors list. So all of these folks live on adjacent streets or nearby streets. And it also finally gives some census information. This is by no means specific to you, but this is based on census information. Ron mentioned the 2020 census just came out. But it gives estimated household income, estimated home market value. So this is the basic census information. But that's going to be the information on over 240 million residents in the US. So this is a very powerful database. I recommend you use it. I use it all the time to do market research, and our staff uses it to find individuals, businesses, and people for our library customers. So with your library card, you have access to this 24 hours a day. So I'm going to move along to our next database is Business Source Premier. This has industry on company profiles, company reports, industry profiles, and market research. Again, I'm going to just put in a quick example of plumbing and show you what kind of research you can find. Ron mentioned SWOT analysis being very important in doing your market research. Those reports are available on here, as well as customized industry reports. And sometimes you can spend thousands of dollars on these if you try to buy them on the open market. But you can go in and get industry reports on just about any SIC code, NAICS code, or industry out there. And these are sometimes reports that are hundreds of pages long, go into tons of detail, and it's what you'll need to flesh out your business plan. So this one's on plumbing, heating, air conditioning contractors. It gives the NAICS codes, and this is the 2022 capital and expenses report. It's going to give you the industry trends and all of the demographic data on this specific industry. And just glancing at the table of contents, you'll see all the rich information you can find, things like cost of materials, inventories, rentals, capital expenditures, estimated costs, estimated capital expenditures for states, for the metro area, and it also gives future trends too for 2023. So it has establishments, sales, and employment trends across the whole industry. So these are very detailed industry reports, and they're free through your library. So just be aware that those are out there. You can also find hundreds of magazine articles about your business or your product. And all of those are full text right here. You just click on the full text and that pops right up in your screen. So you can do a lot of research 24 hours a day on your business or your product or service. So remember to use the Business Source Premier for that. And then finally, our Small Business Reference Center. Again, it has industry information and magazine articles that you can search by keyword, but it also goes a little more specific into business areas. So things on accounting, buying a business, hiring employees, managing, leadership, sales, operations, marketing, all of that's covered in here. You'll find literally hundreds of articles on any topic you choose to do more research on. And again, this is going to have reports, it's going to have trade journals, and it's going to have magazine articles specific to what you're searching for. So another valuable tool. It also has industry information by small business type. So if you have a popular small business type like a bakery, automotive, bridal services, cleaning, it's going to give hundreds of articles specifically on that, as well as industry information on that particular business. And then finally, it'll have a section for business basics. So coaching employees, hiring, firing, marketing your business, businesses you can start with less than $1,000, for retirees, for stay-at-home moms and dads, for students, tax deductions you can take for your business. Just wonderful information about starting a business, how to improve the efficiency of your business, and growing your business. So all of that is, again, available free 24 hours a day with your library card. We encourage you to use the databases. The more you use them, the more we can justify keeping them and adding to them as well. So use our databases, use your library, get a free library card, take advantage of everything that SCORE, the mentors, have to offer, as well as the SBA. And we wish you all the best of luck in starting your businesses and growing your business. So that pretty much wraps up our time today. I don't want to keep you longer than I have to. If you have any questions, though, please leave them in the chat. And thank you, Ron, again, for that wonderful presentation on business plans and what's essential for including in your business plans. And thanks for all you do as a SCORE mentor, as well as all the other mentors out there.
Thank you, John. Thank you, audience, for being the wonderful people you are. John, there was just a question in the chat, said something about, how do I get information on a card that I cannot find?
Oh, okay, not a problem. You can either call the library or go in person. We can check to see if you still have a card account on file. If you are in our system, we'll just give you a replacement card. If you're not in the system, we'll simply issue a brand new card, the library card that has a barcode. And that's the key to get in our databases. You'll have a library barcode on the back of your library card. That's your username. And the last 4 digits of your phone number that we have on file is usually your PIN or your password. So if you're not sure, you can always stop in person or give us a call. We'll be glad to give you that information over the phone. So
and for those that are out of town?
Out of town, we do out of town cards. We have what's called an e-card. So we have folks that want to access our databases from out of town. They can do that with an e-card. The difference between an e-card and a regular card is e-cards allow you to use our library computers and use our databases. They do not allow you to check out. You want to get a full library card if you want to check out materials like books and movies and Chromebooks, things like that. But yeah, free library card anywhere here in Kansas. Any other questions?
Nice job. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You covered a lot, and I think we threw a lot of information in a short amount of time, but please make use of all these available resources for small business. We love our small business community. We want to see you grow and prosper. So thank you everyone for participating in today's program. We did send a quick survey when we sent you the Zoom link. Please take a few minutes to complete that survey, and we'll use that to help plan future programs. We have a name of the database. The name of the database question, it was A to Z database. That's one of the databases we used. We also used the Small Business Reference Center. And again, all of those are available on the library website. So you can just Google Wichita Public Library, click on the Research and Learn tab, and start a business. We'll have all of our resources there in one spot for you. If you're interested in upcoming library programs, please visit wichitalibrary.org/events. That's this link right here. It has all of our upcoming programs and how to get registered for those. We usually have them months in advance, so you can do your planning for participation that way. We're starting to do more and more programs in person, so we're getting away from the Zoom programming and look to do more live events as the COVID situation improves. And again, thank you for your support of the Wichita Public Library and of Wichita SCORE. And this is going to end today's program. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Have a great weekend.